Kids say now, yes, yes. Yeah, that's what they say, yes. Oh, is that how you say, yes? Yes. This is Miss LaNesha Creeks. She is the creator and owner of Fly Better Life, and she's joining us this morning for the 2018 season of August Accountability Goals Are Important. Yes! Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you joining us. It is. It's a blessing. I know when I ask people to join me, it's taking time out of their morning, so I do appreciate it. But we have a good time, and it helps a lot of people. I'm learning that as we go. So tell us about yourself. We want to start there. Tell us about what you do and who you are and how it fits in with August Accountability.
Okay, well, I am a licensed professional counselor.
Yay!
My degree is in psychology, and of course I have a master's in counseling. And so I also am a worship leader, I'm a songwriter, and I have a background in education of 20 years working with students with disabilities and families, at-risk students. So it's just a pleasure to be a part of the community and encouraging others to be their best self. Now, it fits with August accountability because as a counselor, it's important to speak to the whole person. And so the fact that you have the 4 quadrants, that is amazing. That's amazing.
And I asked LaNesha to be a part of it for the spiritual quadrant because of the work she does as a worship leader. She's a counselor, and she understands how important it is to acknowledge our spiritual lives. Even though we're counselors, we do not disregard who we are spiritually. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Your spirituality is so important. It connects you. And it's good to remember that even though you're going through challenges and trials, sometimes you feel like you're doubting yourself and that your faith is not where it should be. So spirituality is a very important aspect. In the counseling field, we actually encourage clients to connect to their faith base. So even though I look at different theories from cognitive behavior therapy, that's connecting your thoughts with your feelings and your actions. And that's also substantiated by the Word of God because it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And so we connect to their belief system no matter what that is. So even if they're not a Christian, I still encourage them to draw on that and to connect. I share who I am in my personal walk with Christ, and they're able to ask me questions. And once that door is open, then I can share.
So have you set your practice up as a Christian counselor or your general, and if faith comes up, you talk about it? Which direction have you taken?
Even though I do serve at Concord Church, it's in the South.
I got baptized there. I got baptized
Well,
there.
come on, baptism is important.
Where's KGB? Yeah, we
that
did.
spirit,
I was 7 years old, Pastor Bailey. That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Praise God. You know, this Sunday is the 43rd anniversary of the ministry.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. Concord was over on Polk Street, was it?
Well, it started on Polk.
Yeah, that's where I got baptized.
Yeah, now it's on Pastor Bailey.
And let me I'm gonna tell y'all a funny story, wait a minute, because you know I like to claim. Okay, they told me I was getting baptized, right? But my mama did my hair that morning, right? So I was looking real cute, yeah. And I went out in the what do you call it, the vestibule? Is that what it's, vestibule? And I saw my grandmama out there. I was like, wow, these folks here, you know, it's like, you know. So everybody in, and I'm waving, and I'm like, oh, my hair look good. I'm waving. And when he dumped me, I was livid. I mean, I just came up and couldn't think about the baptism or anything, you know, until I got to the back and they explained to me. You know, I was like, my mama should have told me we didn't have to go through all of this prep work but yeah, that's,
Absolutely.
wow.
So
that brings back a lot of memories, you say, in Concord.
You learned that day.
Yes, I learned that day. Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, you know, Concord is a 9,000 member church. And so the counseling center is an affiliate of the church. So it's Harmony Counseling Center. So we also serve the surrounding community. And so we do biblical counseling. We actually have a training program that I completed. It was 2 years for biblical counseling. However, we invite the families to tell us how they want us to encourage them, and that's the approach that we use. So I can say, you know, what is your belief system? And you understand that this is the Harmony Counseling Center, we are a church, but I respect your belief system, and so we'll go from there.
And how do you handle, and this is going out a little off task, so if you want to say skip the question, we can skip the question. But like I've been getting a lot of phone calls lately to come to churches. How do you bridge that connection between spirituality and counseling, because people, there's still a wide held belief that if you're saved, you don't need counseling.
Well, with Fly Better Life, one of my goals is to remove the stigma of going to counseling. First of all, one of the titles for Jesus is the wonderful counselor. Hello. And so there are many examples in the Bible of counseling. Even Moses, when people wanted counsel or they had disagreements, counselor falls under the same anointing as judge and law, mediation, problem solving, communication. So it's very important. So that's
so
how I
getting
reconcile
people to
that.
not just look at crisis or mental illness,
Sure.
but broadening their perspective that it's mental health.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Wellness includes the whole person.
Okay. And so what do you find that women have a hard time reconciling when it comes to that connection between spirit and emotional well-being?
Emotional well-being is a loaded phrase.
Okay.
First of all, God created emotions. And sometimes we're aware of that, but we actually forget that. With women, oftentimes it feels like we don't have permission to be emotional. They say that we're angry or that we're fussy or that we cry or that we don't even get along well with each other. But our emotions are very important. So as it relates to counseling in the church and what we've been taught and told, sometimes we feel like, making reference to what you were saying, if you're crying about it or if you feel, if your faith is shaken by your circumstance, sometimes you feel accused that you're not standing strong in the word. But we have several examples in the Bible of people who were actually depressed. Even some of the greatest prophets in the Bible reached the point of being so discouraged, they say, Lord, just take me. And he said, no, I have more for you to do. And you're not the only one. So counseling, when we say forsake not the assembly, counseling is actually going to the community and saying, I need help with this. I can't carry this on my own. And so that's another way to look at it.
And so how would you talk a woman through thinking that she's being weak?
Wow. Talking a woman through thinking that she's weak. Well, first, awareness of where you are is very important. The way our emotions are designed by God, it's actually a signal to you to say, stop, something is wrong. You are feeling overwhelmed. And that trigger is there because he placed it there as a signal to you to reassess what's going on in your life. What do I need to change? Who's supportive of me? Who's not supportive of me? Am I on target with our goals? In the counseling field, often people come in during those life transitions. So, you may be mid-20s, you may be approaching 40, you may be, getting a little older, and those seasoned saints. And all those transitions, we're asking God to take an assessment, okay, I'm not on track with where I thought I was supposed to be. And it can bring up great regret and emotions and self-doubt. And, when the Bible says, teach us to number our days, it makes you say, hold on, am I getting this done in a timely manner? So that's what counseling can do. It can help you retrack, repace yourself, and connect to the word, and then be encouraged and see, okay, God, I still trust you. I still see you working even where I am. Because often, sometimes we have job dissatisfaction. People come in for job stress. They're not happy about where they are. But remember, God can use you right where you are. All of your gifts are going to come out. So as I was saying, having a background in education for 20 years, my undergraduate degree is in psychology. The goal was always full-time counseling, but he took me through another path, and I realized that I could use all of my gifts right there in the classroom because you have to deal with the community and collaborating with other people to make sure that the children get what they need. And my goal has always been to impact the next generation anyway. I didn't know that God would use
Take
me
you on that path.
in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think people too, they get discouraged by that path. They feel like if I get caught up in this, there's no way that I can get to what I originally wanted, instead of realizing that God is preparing you along the way. And we get so agitated by the preparation. We just want, again, the end result, that Jeremiah 29:11 moment. We don't want to walk the path of Job. And I totally understand that when you talk about emotions, the fear of walking that path can be overwhelming sometimes. But I think that's what we have to step back and look at. Something else that you talked about too was the emotions of it.
Yes.
That God blessed us with all of these emotions. but we want to stifle them.
Yeah.
Right? And that really is denying who we are.
Exactly.
Now, we may overreact to some of the emotions. We may need to go to counseling to learn how to manage some of those emotions. But it is just an exploration of who we are intrinsically and being able to deal with that.
Well, science even backs up that tears and crying is helpful. Did you know that every tear that falls has a different composition? And literally what it does, it releases certain chemicals onto your skin and gives your body back some chemicals that it needs to help you feel better. So you should never discount your tears. Don't stifle it. Sometimes you may have to move to another location, go to the bathroom, get you a break, but let it out. Because God designed, oh, I love it. I love science.
I like that. I like that because people have called me a crybaby because I cry.
Let me tell you my new phrase. My tears are my gift to the world. That is what they are. God has gifted me with empathy. And so that allows me to cry when you cry and be happy and have happy tears when you have happy tears. It says rejoice with those that rejoice and mourn with those that mourn. So we're in error sometimes when people are mourning and we're saying, oh, get it together. They are together, and they'll be more together as soon as they finish crying. As soon as they finish crying.
You said something, so that kind of made my head itch. Watch this. Okay, so because when I tell people this, they look at me kind of crossways. When I tell them I'm an empath. Yeah. So I've actually had to tell people, I need you to leave the room. What you're going through is overwhelming me. Or I'll remove myself from the room if I realize that person's energy is over, like I can't, like it took me off guard or something. Like a lot of people, I know how you're gonna present. Like somebody called yesterday, I knew that, if she had showed up today, which she didn't, it was just too much, that it would have been a lot for me to process in this time and space. And so when I tell people that, they're like, whatever, and I'm just like, don't disregard it, right? Well, but here's the part B of that, what you just said. Okay. If you look at somebody and tell them to get over it, how inconsiderate, rude, ruthless, to me, it's just it is you that you're trying to get over. It's something you're going through that you're trying to get over. And you're going to tell me to get over it because you're struggling with something yourself. But it's easier for you to reach out and tell me to do it than it is for you to look in the mirror and say, I need some help. Absolutely. That person, you're making a great point. Often, you've heard the phrase that hurting people hurt other people. Right. That person may very well not be in touch with what's going on the inside of them. And so it's easier for them to push it down, and then it's going to come up, though. At some point. Something is going to trigger it. And you actually, a person can be insecure, and when you are walking in your security, they can sense it, and it's actually a threat to them. Because if you can be your authentic self, then why can't they be there? And it actually makes them uncomfortable. Makes them uncomfortable. There's a war going on in the spirit. And so the enemy will use all of that in warfare. So spiritual warfare. Yeah, we are connected. We are spirit beings. Yeah. You said something. I think one of the sayings nowadays, people say, don't let my light outshine yours.
Don't dim your light.
There you go. For somebody else.
Others can shine.
Yeah.
Listen, that's biblical. Yeah. The word says a light, you're not supposed to put it under a bushel. You're supposed to let it be seen. It cannot be hidden. So there's enough light for all of us to shine. And you can't outshine me because we have a different anointing, a different place. Right. Yeah. I like that. There is room for your abundance. Right. There is room for your anointing. And actually, everybody's supposed to work together. And let's say my light is suffering a little bit. Just touch again. Over. Yeah, I'm serious about that thing. Have my glasses. Spark. Yeah. Spark. Light it up. Light one another up. That's good. Yeah. Now, is there anything else you want to share about what you do in your ministry, your music? Wow. I am working on a gospel album, worship album. Let's see. If I could share anything, it would just be that you might be discouraged in your life at times. Counseling can help you with that. Don't be ashamed. You can go. Confidentiality is a huge part of it, okay? And so you might feel like, well, I'm doing okay. Well, we go to the medical doctor once a year for a checkup. You know, we go to the eye doctor, optometrist. I suggest you also get a mental checkup, an emotional checkup, a spiritual checkup. Go to counseling because you might be flying okay, but allow someone that's gifted by the Father to counsel to help you fly better.
And that's the name of the... Okay, ladies, do you all have any questions? I know I do. Come on to the mic, come on to the mic, come on to the mic. I always wanted to say, come on down.
I have a question for you regarding...
Wait, he's going to turn the mic on. Got it?
I have a question for you regarding, as women, and especially black women, we have to be strong.
Yeah.
I've come to be offended with that word because there's so many other things we can be. We can be tenacious, we can be, but when we're strong, we're not able to be vulnerable and cry and be caught in a different place. What techniques or strategies do you have for us when we don't want to be strong?
I hear you when you say you pause with even using the word strong, but I don't want to stray away from it. I want to define it correctly. I help a woman look at everything that she is, even diagram herself. You know when you roll up on the crime scene and you see the chalk
tape.
outline? Chalk outline yourself. If life was so overwhelming for you right now and you left here and we saw your outline, what would people finally be able to see? I encourage a woman that strength includes being able to label the things that she's proud of and the things that she's not so proud of, the things that she's really concerned about. So once you can identify all of those things, and they are weaknesses. We all have strengths and weaknesses, but for me, strength includes reconciling all of them. Yeah.
Can you sing your question, please? No, I'm just playing.
Oh, is it right? I want to say thank you, first of all. That was awesome because I work in ministry, and oftentimes it seems as if being emotional as a ministry leader is not good. And I guess what my question is, going forward, because this is mind-blowing, the idea that it's okay to be emotional and don't stifle them as working in ministry. I mean, I don't know how to work around that because for so long it's been hammered in, you've got to suck it up, and you've got to be tough, and you've got to be those things versus crying and being emotional. It means you're a bad ministry worker versus, you know, and so I guess how do you process that? How do you move forward in that?
Got you. I answered that because I too am that way. Sometimes I get caught up right in the midst of what I'm doing. So it depends on what your position is, and I would say balance is the key because there is a time when you're going to have to take a moment. But sometimes we're overwhelmed when we have to lead right in front of the people that we're serving because we don't take enough time to reconnect in private so that you're grounded and you've already dealt with the things that were heavy. And left them on the altar. So when you get in front of the people, my emotions in that moment help me connect to the audience. When you were worshiping, you know, when we speak, I can feel you even now. So that's not a weakness. It's a matter of even helping to educate those that you're serving because they are watching you. It's okay to come in and say, hello, how y'all doing? You know, I'm working through something right now, and so I have a challenge. Pray with me. You know, acknowledge it because that's a strength. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you have a question? I thought you were trying to take a picture. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, drop the mic. Drop the mic. Come on.
My friends think I'm really too sensitive, so and I've been, battling a lot with trying to rein in my emotions when I'm talking to my mom because I usually yell at her and I don't mean to. But
Sure.
Do you have any tips to go about practicing reining in like your emotions and stuff.
Yes. When you're communicating and emotions are coming out, sometimes I give my clients or families a script, and it can be really simple. Sometimes the emotions are overwhelming, and sometimes it feels like we're even disrespecting the other person because now all the passion is coming out because we haven't felt heard. So you can pre-write, or some people are artistic. You can draw something to get your emotions out before you have planned, to meet and discuss something. Then you can bring your notes. I have a security blanket right here that, of course, I was not going to open, but I felt more comfortable just having it here. These were my thoughts and brainstorming. And so the script could be something as simple as, Mom, when you said this, I felt this. In the future, could you, and then you could ask for a request, something that's meaningful to you. Could you pull me to the side or what have you? And then I will. So that's a simple script. Then she could respond, thank you for sharing that. I hear
ain't
you
that kind of
saying,
mama.
well, you
No,
might
I'm
not be. We grow people. Yeah. So, the response is important because then the other person can acknowledge that they actually heard what you said. And that can decrease the anxiety of, that's confrontation. So that's my suggestion.
I have a question for you. How do you break in women that are of elder age to our youthful girls the generational curse that's presented to us of hating one another?
Okay, that's not in there. That's not in there. No,
It's not in the book.
it's not in the book. No.
So hate is kind of a strong word. Let's say intimidated
I understand
by
what you're
one another. So you used a good description of my light is bright and your light is bright, but now you're making me feel not as confident as I am as a woman. Like your light is shining when both of us are actually shining together. So I notice, and ladies, this has nothing to do with any of us in this room, but I noticed that women will get together and I'm one to really quickly say, you are beautiful. Oh my God, you're gorgeous, because I don't think we stop and say that. But instead, a lot of times you get, oh, she thinks she all that. And it's like, no, I don't. You think I'm all that, but So how do we break, and to me, that's a generational thing.
I got you. I was just playing.
Okay.
I fully get where you're coming from. The word says that the older women are to instruct and teach the younger women. And so depending on who taught them, that's going to impact what they're passing down. So sometimes it was only about correction and not validation. Like you said, complimenting. Sometimes they're more concerned about, is that pride? So, that's really important. So even when older women come in for counseling, I just hit 40-something.
She said 40-something.
I just have 2 gray hairs on this side. So, older women are looking to me saying, what can you tell me? What do you have for me? But I remind them that being spirit beings, and even if we're not coming from a biblical aspect, our knowledge is not learned just by experience. In my own personal spiritual walk, wisdom has been passed down to me. At different points in my life when I was stumbling and not flying as well as I had hoped, I could hardly get off the ground, God put mentors right there to help me in those moments. And so I encourage older women to do their own work. Sometimes they've gotten to a season of their life and they haven't accomplished everything either. And they see the one that's coming up behind them, and she does look like she's on target, and it can be threatening. And so I would just say for those of us who are younger than anyone else who might approach us, don't think that it has to just go downstream. Kindly approach them, even if they are abrasive. Sometimes they're trying to correct you in love. It may not feel like love. It could be from their own hurt, but the fact that they said something means they did care.
A little bit,
It's,
yeah.
it's there. It's there.
I think
And-
we have to be mindful to not get overwhelmed by someone else's negative experiences and just leave their negative experiences where they are. And if you want to compliment that person, you compliment that person because you never know. You may feed something today, somebody else something the next day, and at some point they'll see that what they're doing is hateful and hurting and destructive, but they may not receive the message just from you as that first point of contact. It may be over time.
And they may not feel heard. So sometimes even if they've come to me in a harsh way, I can say, you know what, I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me.
Yeah.
I respect you as an older woman, and they're shocked. They're surprised because they know they came over to let me have it.
Right, but if you come in love,
But when
Come on, yes, okay.
I appreciate my young sisters, okay? And like Maya Angelou say, when they know better, they do better.
Right.
Sometimes they don't. But my question was, in this season for me around in our community, a lot of young people in suicide. That thing, depression, and it has hit me personally several times. It used to be a time where our community, we were concerned about drive-bys. And even for families that are affected, that have lost young loved ones through suicide, they still have this like defensiveness. Before we get to the point of where that kid is pulling that trigger or hanging himself, you have any suggestion in being better able to identify depression?
depression
We have like 3 minutes.
absolutely plagues our community. It's important to look for patterns. Their behavior may change. They may become more withdrawn. Sometimes, though, they're trying to be strong and hold it all together in front of you. So staying as connected to them as you can be helpful. Checking in with them and getting the person to talk and open up. That topic, it actually would take more for me to expound on. But look for warning signs in behavior. Loss of friends, major transitions. Sometimes a person has just been hit by one thing after another, and they say, I just can't do it anymore. So look for those major things and look for the signs. I'll speak to you some more.
Yeah. Okay, one more real quick. She said wrap it up. There you go.
My question is, what strategies is there for a person who's not really in tune to their emotionalness? You know, people are emotional, and that's great, but I'm not that person to be like, oh, I'm not emotional. But I want to, like I had a situation where somebody was crying in the bathroom, and I asked them what was wrong. They told me, I was like, oh, well, okay.
2 questions. Ask them, what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling? It's gonna.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think it's an absence of emotion. Your reaction to emotional situations is different. It's not an absence of emotion. The emotion is there. Someone else may just have a more intense reaction to it. And that's where we get, when we're talking about ladies and generalities and globalization, you're not expected to act the same way as the person next to you. It's your response to situations. And that basically determines how we deal with things that happen to us. It's not the actual event.
Right.
It's our response to the event
The
that dictates what the next move will be. So yeah, if you're not a crybaby like I am,
Well, my question is, how do you interact with those people that are emotional?
How do you show? And so that's what she was saying.
Ask them, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? So that they can express those 2 things, because their thoughts about what happened and their feeling about what just happened is why you're seeing that behavior.
Right.
So allowing them to verbalize it. Sometimes people have trouble putting the words to it, but it's that simple. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Sometimes they're afraid. They don't feel safe to tell you because it may hurt you or it may offend a public figure. But those 2 questions, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, opens the door. And ask yourself that.
In response to their behavior.
In response to your own, what was I thinking, what was I feeling when I did that?
Okay. All righty, ladies. Thank you, LaNesha. Yes. The spiritual quadrant.
Thank you.
Thank